Hello Pepperdine staff. In this video I'm going to present foundational information and concepts of query basics as it relates to the PeopleSoft Query Manager for the purpose of viewing and building basic PeopleSoft queries. Let's begin by defining a query. The term query means to search, to question, or to find. When you query a database, you're searching for information in a database. So that begs the question, what is a database? A database is a structured collection of records or data that is stored in a computer system. In understanding PeopleSoft queries, it is helpful to answer the question, how is data stored? When information is entered into a database system, the data is stored in tables. Consider the term table as a database concept. In PeopleSoft, tables are identified as records, and you will see and hear these terms used interchangeably. As you can see, tables are composed of columns and rows, and these records are a collection of related fields. Another database concept term, columns, are known as fields in PeopleSoft. Fields store one unique type of data element and are considered single pieces of information for each row. In this example, we would identify employee ID, name, address, and so on as the record field names. The rows are also a database concept, sometimes referred to as the field data, which contain all information for a unique combination of query data contained in that record definition. Additionally, key fields are one or more columns or fields that help define what a unique row is in the record that links one type of record to another. In this example, fields like employee ID, name, and so on contain unique information, whereas city and state are not unique. In summary, for the Pepperdine user, data is stored in a PeopleSoft database, also known as a relational database, which is simply a type of database that organizes data into tables and links them based on defined relationships. These relationships enable you to retrieve and combine data from one or more tables with a single user-created query. In summary, we know that a query is simply extracting information from one or more record fields to answer a question. Let's illustrate this. You might ask the question or need to know, out of all worldwide employees, you would like to know the employee ID, name, department number, and phone number of those employees who only work in California. Here, we see that record A contains the employee ID, name, and phone number of all worldwide employees. However, the department ID field is not contained in this record. Consequently, we will need a second record to extract that information. We'll call it record B. We'll create the query by identifying one or more records which contain the information being requested and then specifying which fields and rows the system would retrieve for the query results. We can now run the query and view the results, giving you the employee ID, name, department ID, and phone number of all those employees who only work in California. That, in its simplest form, is how a query works. Now that we understand the basics, let's describe in more detail a PeopleSoft query, its structure, the database elements, joining queries, query properties, query security, and the options PeopleSoft provides for working with queries in our environment. Now, to expand our understanding into what is PeopleSoft Query, simply stated, it is an end-user reporting tool that allows you to retrieve dynamic information from the secure PeopleSoft database. This can be finance, human resources, or student administration data. This is done in PeopleSoft via a web browser where the non-technical user can extract specific information using visual representations of the secure PeopleSoft database without writing structured query language, that is, SQL code. By taking a closer look, users can create, run queries, and view results in a preview mode or as a separate HTML process. Queries can be scheduled to run at predefined times. You can also download the results from the query into an Excel spreadsheet, and the query results can be used as a data source for other applications. All this can be done with some training using the PeopleSoft Query Manager. So, as you can see, within the database, the Query Manager runs the programming code behind the scenes to select and report on queried information stored in the PeopleSoft application tables. Since PeopleSoft is a relational database, this means data is structured into a series of related records or tables. When retrieving data, the system only accesses the records that contain the requested data. To provide a visual of the query structure, consider a relational database to a filing cabinet. The filing cabinet represents the whole database. The drawers of the cabinet represent the records or tables, while a folder within the drawer represents a field. Noting that the record will contain many fields and the individual forms or documents within a folder represent the field data or rows. Just like searching for the one document in a folder contained in a drawer by knowing which records to access and how to find the right fields across the multiple records is the key to building successful queries. And note that detail will be covered in the Query Manager training video. In PeopleSoft, tables are called records which store information that's in a format similar to a spreadsheet. The personal data, employment, and personal data effective date tables are simple examples of PeopleSoft records. So we can say a record is a collection of rows that holds a common set of data. Each row is exclusively identified by a unique key, which can be made up of one or more fields. The first step in creating a query is selecting one or more records. The record or records you select establishes the primary focus of your query, since the data stored in the database is record related. That means each table in the database may have overlapping data. Here in our example, multiple tables list employee ID, names, addresses, countries, and so on. And other tables may have unique data that's not available in any other table, such as a hire date or a business title or effective date. In summary, there is one primary source record for data, while some related data may be available in multiple records. The next step in creating a PeopleSoft query is selecting the fields. Columns are often known as fields, which store single pieces of information for each row. Employee ID, name, address, city, state, and country are fields in the personal data table. Each record is defined to contain a certain number of fields. These fields will exist for any row in the record, but may or may not actually have a value. Fields are the basic building blocks of records in PeopleSoft. And as a side note, a field can be of the following type of data: a character, a number, a date, time, and so on. So a fundamental concept of PeopleSoft Query is that it links two or more records using common fields. Simply put, it links or joins the rows of multiple tables using common values and shared fields. And note that certain fields in a record may be designated as a primary key field. We'll talk more about key fields in just a bit. We said earlier, rows are known as field data, which contains all of the information for a unique combination of key values on the table. As an example, in the personal data table, a row may include the data for these fields: employee ID, name, country, while the business title data would come from the employment table. A field designated as a key means it helps define what a unique row is in the record. The most common key field in PeopleSoft is an employee ID, but it often needs to be combined with other fields such as effective dates or empl records to ensure that all field data or rows are truly unique. So in PeopleSoft, Primary keys are a set of columns or fields that uniquely identifies an object. No other object can have the same primary key as another. For example, no two cars have the same vehicle identification number, or neither can two $1 bills have the same serial number. In PeopleSoft, no two people can have the same employee ID number. So, the primary key of the personal data record is EmployID. It should be obvious by now that there will be times when you need to see resultant data from multiple tables in one query. PeopleSoft Query enables you to request data from multiple records using joins. Joining records means to link multiple records together for obtaining the needed results in a query. Joining two or more tables together requires adding criteria to match the data that exist in key fields, common to both tables. Thus, tables are joined on their common or key fields. To properly join tables, the database needs to know how the tables are linked. For example, if you want to join the employment table to the personal data table, you would want the system to look for the rows in each table where one or more key fields, like the EmployID field, that is the common key field, is the same. Joining tables in this way allows you to take advantage of the indexing built into the PeopleSoft system and allows the system to scan the database more efficiently. In this example, running a query to capture EmployID, name, address, country, and pay status results by using those tables without first joining the EmployID key fields would produce the following improper output. Without a proper join, the system does not know how to link the two tables together. It creates a row for every combination of the two records. Since the first table has 4 rows and the second has 3, you end up with 12 rows. This is called a Cartesian join and is not what you want. Improperly joined tables can cause serious performance problems for the entire PeopleSoft database. When you link tables using key fields, you ensure that you will not retrieve duplicate data in your query result. If you join the tables using the key EmployID field and ran the query, you would get the following correct result. Notice that there are only 3 rows of data in the output. When you join tables, only matching rows in both tables are selected. Also note that Humpty Dumpty had no data in the employment table. Therefore, Humpty was not included in the results. An important query concept in doing a record join is the table relationships. In PeopleSoft Query, predefined join is either a record hierarchy join, which is a virtual connection between parent table and a child table, and is defined by the record properties and the key structure. And a record-related join combines non-hierarchical records that share common fields and is determined by something called a prompt table relationship. So, whenever you're using these two record types, you perform a join that are linked based on a common or key fields. The following diagram shows the technical relationships between the tables of data based on their key structure. So you can see that a record hierarchy join is where data in one table represents details about children of data in another table, whereas related records are specific to a key field in the current record, and its purpose is to retrieve more detailed information such as descriptions and meanings about something referenced in another table. Since these types of joins are predefined, you do not have to add any criteria to manually link the records. So keep in mind that once the records have been properly joined, any fields for the selected records are available for inclusion in the report or can be used as a criterion. A criterion determines which rows will appear in the results based upon specifying conditions that the retrieved data must meet. Data is filtered to retrieve only those rows that you need to see. PeopleSoft Query uses the paradigm of a funnel to describe how the criteria affects the data it examines. Adding criteria simply allows the user to further narrow down query results. For example, out of all of Pepperdine students, we wish to view only the undergraduates who are born in California. So in our query, we define the criteria to filter that data using some conditions such as an effective date less than or equal to the current date, the academic career equal to undergrad, and the birth state equal to California. Consequently, the results are returned based on only those three criteria. So let's talk about effective data tables. Many of the PeopleSoft records used to create queries are effective dated because there is a need to keep track of the history of changes to something in a database. Effective date is the date on which a field data row becomes effective, or the date that an action begins. This means that at least one of the key fields is an effective date, which allows the database to contain current, future, and historical data. When an effective date fields are in a record, they are considered to be part of the primary key. This is because the date helps uniquely identify the information about an object at a point in time. Consider in this example the following rows of academic program, which contains data about the programs in which a student is participating and has participated. Student 1, 2, 3, 4 entered the Academic Enhancement Program on 8/20/2010, then switched to Education and Human Development on 1/7/2011, then changed a plan within that program on 1/12/2012. All three of the rows are about the same student's participation, but represent different states of that participation by date. The effective date field helps to uniquely identify the state of participation. By using these fields, one can find out which program a student was in at a given point in time. The full primary key of the academic program record is the combination of EMPL ID, academic career, and effective date. Successful query writing depends on knowing how the data is organized and stored in the database. Effective dating is an important concept in PeopleSoft Query because it is a prime factor in what you get for data results. Prompts increase a query's flexibility by allowing users to specify the criteria at runtime. One or more prompts can be implemented as part of the criteria for obtaining specific results as required by the user. In this example, the user needs to review student information and their status for non-degree applicants. By adding an admitting term prompt to the query's criteria, it will allow the user to reuse the same query based on the selected term the user enters. Consequently, the student results are filtered to only those students for that one particular term. PeopleSoft provides security features to ensure sensitive application data does not fall into the wrong hands, such as employee salaries, performance reviews, student grades, and so on. PeopleSoft provides multiple levels of security for protection of data, reports, and other components. For example, the security administrator must grant a user access to the query manager. One element of the security profile identifies what type of access, if any, the user will have in PeopleSoft Query. This is done by setting user profiles, roles, and permissions. Furthermore, a user's security access to the data determines if that user has the rights to view the application data being requested by the query. For example, you may be allowed to only access and specify certain records when building and running queries. And within those records, a row-level security enables you to only specify the data that you are permitted to access. For example, rather than having access to all employees' personal data, you may be allowed only to view rows for employees for your department. Simply put, PeopleSoft Security provides query access as an efficient method of granting authorization to different user types and the specific application data. PeopleSoft provides several options for working with queries. Query Manager is the administrative area in PeopleSoft where you can build, search for, organize, and edit queries. This option allows you to view, run, and modify an existing query, or create a new query as well as saving queries. The Query Viewer option allows you to only run and print existing queries and view results in a browser window. This is a read-only version of Query Manager, which does allow you to run and export queries to Excel or XML via the Query Viewer. Scheduled Query option allows you to schedule a runtime for standard queries. Note that the Query Viewer and Query Manager will be the primary focus of these Pepperdine University video tutorials. Be sure to look for other video tutorials related to creating and running queries using the Query Manager. That's it. Thank you for watching.